Originally, I was just going to read this to you, and I thought, well, that's pretty stupid because you guys will want to go home and do your own research like good constitutionalists do. So I thought, and two, if we didn't have time today for this, that you'd be able to have it and take it home. But I'll just go through it briefly. This is, it sounds innocuous, it sounds innocent. The American Community Survey. You know, it sounds so inviting. It's the replacement for the census long form. And this information you'll see, it says census.gov, so this is where I got it all from. I basically compiled it together to hit the highlights. The long form was replaced by this, and they sent the long form to various people, not everybody, every 10 years. And they said, we got to have this information. We got to know if you own your home or what your income is. We got to know all this stuff so we can get the money out to the states. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're waiting every 10 years to find this stuff out? You know how much information changes in all that time? It's like the government sends money every single year. So that was a ridiculous argument. But back then, the long form went out once every 10 years, and it was a $100 fine if you didn't do it. Most of the time, that fine wasn't enforced. Now, they got this American Community Survey. They send to 3.5 million households every single year. And if you don't fill that out, it's a $5,000 fine. So they must want this information pretty bad. But I just took 5 sections of it, and the links are on here so you can find it. It'll take you right to these things. The first link is the survey itself. It asks these necessarily vital questions they've got to know, like how many acres does your house or mobile home sit on? What is your monthly mortgage and taxes? And they've got to know what the cost of your water and sewage and electricity is for your home. They've got to know that, folks. And they also have to know from the past 12 months your Social Security, pension, and railroad retirement, how much that was. Now, I've got to point this out to you because I was laughing so hard when I saw this. They said, remember all the controversy that's going around that they don't want the citizenship question asked on the census because it's racist and everything like that. One question on the American Community Survey is this person a citizen of the United States? Our government is so big they can't even keep track of their own contradictions. Now the second link is about the ACS, where they say, you know, they explain all this. I won't read it all. But they said we've got to have this information so that we know how to distribute $675 billion. In other words, they're implying without this information, we can't distribute this money. Your community needs it. You got to have it. That's the insult to your intelligence. And my question is, how much of this $675 billion is constitutional spending? I'll suspect it. Exactly. But they go on to say public officials and planners need to know this information. Now the implication here is if you don't do the survey, you don't want to help your community and you don't care about the children. That's what they're implying. The next one is just going to make you mad. They break it down and they explain why we ask these things, and they have 33 categories for this survey if you get it in the mail. And they break down, like question 2 and 5 is under the agricultural section, questions 2, 4, and 17 are under the housing section. And they're basically talking to you like your children. It's like, well, we put this in this section. See, this is why we asked this here, because it's about housing, see? It's like your little kids. The next thing is they say every year the census collects over 3.5 million households across the country contacts to participate in the survey. When you respond, you are doing your part to ensure decisions about your community can be made using the best data available. One question the census answers is my response required? Of course, yeah, it's the government, so yes, it is. You are legally obligated to answer all questions as accurately as you can, and then they give these statute titles. And I want you to really look those up because they say the section 3571 and 3559 amend 221. 221 said you pay the $100 fine. These new ones are the ones that say you pay a $5,000 fine. Now, this isn't on here, but I thought of it after I made the copies. I would argue this violates due process. This is where the Constitution Party really should get involved in this, because the implication is you don't fill this out, you've got to pay the fine. It's like Obamacare. You either get the government prescribed health care or you pay a fine. You know, if you're pulled over for speeding or something, they say if you want to contest this ticket, this is what you do. Doesn't seem like there's any contesting on here to me. You're paying the fine if you don't do it. Two things here. If you look at all the crimes they list under Section 3559, they've got kidnapping, manslaughter, extortion, and they say this applies to the ACS, this section. And it's, what does that have to do with all these other things? They make it sound like you're a felon. And number 7 of that section says for an infraction not more than $5,000, but if you read the whole section, you can't find the word census in there anywhere. So the average person looking at that saying, you say this applies to the census? You'd never be able to find it unless they told you this is the section they're using. The second thing is they want you to fill out this intrusive information. They make you sound like shoplifters or criminals if you don't comply. Now ask yourselves, when was the last time you ever did a survey that was mandatory? This isn't like being called for jury duty where if you don't show up, the court can send someone to get you. Trial by jury due process is in the Constitution. This isn't. The last link I have for you is mandatory versus voluntary methods. This is hilarious. They'll say, what would happen to the ACS if it was not mandated by law? The Census Bureau has looked at this question. And our research shows that a voluntary survey would reduce the self-response rate significantly. Yeah, no kidding. To make up this shortfall, we would have to increase the number of households surveyed and conduct a much more in-person follow-up, in other words, intruding your personal lives, coming to your actual door, at an additional cost of $90 million annually. So this would, you can read the rest. It would, now here's what I say. It would cost $90 million more if this wasn't mandatory. Here's my idea for the Census Bureau. How about you do only what the Constitution allows once every 10 years and count the heads and then redraw the districts, and then don't ask the rest of these questions and you can save the $90 million. Yeah. So the Census Bureau will keep people from protesting this obscenity by saying, oh, don't worry, we protect all your personal information. We don't ask your social security number. It's on there. They say, we don't ask your social security number. We don't ask, what are the other things here? Well, yeah, they don't ask your credit card or bank account information. They don't ask your maiden name. Don't worry about it. And if anybody from our Bureau defies this, it will be a $250,000 fine, a sentence up to 5 years, or both. So don't worry about it. No one's going to see this. Anyone who believes that, I've got a lake to sell you up north. The locals call it Winnebago. I'll even throw in a few houses on the shore. The locals call it Oshkosh. Yeah, but that's what they say. It's, oh no, don't worry about it. No one's ever going to see this. It's just for us. They say that you won't be seen by the IRS, nor the FBI, not the CIA. And all Census Bureau employees take a non-disclosure oath. Yeah, okay, all right. So I just wanted to, that's my whole presentation. I just wanted to present this to the Constitution Party leaders across the country because in 2020 the census is. Because technically we could challenge this at any time because now it's yearly. But since the census is coming up, that would put more emphasis on it. And I have to pick a bone with our chairman here. You put me right behind Don Blankenship. I thought you liked me. What are you doing to me here? But that was fantastic, by the way. But since the census is coming up next year, it might be good to attach this to that and put some emphasis on it and let the American people know this is how big your government is. Now, why do they have all this money that they've got to distribute? Article 1, Section 8 doesn't contain all this. But so many people are unfortunately ignorant. I hate to say that. I used to be. There's still things I can learn about the Constitution. All of you would probably say the same thing. But they just don't realize. They say, well, this is on the Census Bureau page, and the Constitution does say you can do a census, ergo this must be legal. So I should be a good citizen and fill this out. I don't like some of these questions, but I'm a good citizen. I want to do the right thing, and I want to help my community. And they play on people's ignorance. That's where the Constitution Party needs to come in as the educational forum we are and let them know this isn't in the Constitution. But that's why they put it on the Census Bureau page, to give it legitimacy. And that's how they legitimize all this money being distributed. Because they'll say, well, you know, we have to get this money to the states, so we got to ask these questions. And that's how they justify it. Never mind the fact that if they followed the Constitution, they wouldn't take this money from the states in the first place. That reminds me of a quick quote before I close here. David Obey was a former congressman here in Wisconsin, up in the 8th district, Mark? 7th, northwest part of the state. And Obey said something stupid that I'll never forget. He said, you have to send money to Washington to get some back. That's how it works. So that's how we can engage the public and say, what are the limits on the federal government, if any? Thank you very much.